Welcome, I'm Virgil Franklin, Audio Recording Department Chair at Vincennes University. A great place to start in building a mix is with the drums and bass. The bass and kick drum are both in the low end of the frequency spectrum, so they can compete against each other in the mix. But when the drums and bass are mixed to work well together, you've got a solid foundation for a high quality audio recording. So normally in the mix, my favorite place to start is in the bass and the drums because they're foundational in most mixes, most genres. It's a good place to start your mix at. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and solo out our bass guitar, which is right here. And we're going to go solo out our drums, which we submixed in the earlier lesson. So here we go. Let's give this a listen. I'm going to set it in deep within the mix, and we're going to hear where our drums and bass are working together. I'm going to raise the level on the bass. All right, so it would seem that the bass is really following the drummers. It doesn't necessarily always work out that way, but it looks like this bass player is definitely following the drummer. So I'm going to go in the initial, I'm just going to look at the EQing of the kick and the bass. Now, I did use a preset. Let's look and see how that works. I'm going to go in, I'm going to click on the preset that I picked for the kick drum, and that's the kick drum hyped preset that's in the channel strip plugin in Pro Tools. So what I like about this is it scoops out the middle. A lot of bass players' frequencies seem to set right in that middle, somewhere between 100 and 1K, depending on style of the bass player. But let's look at where our bass player is at. So I'm going to go ahead and shift click on this. Again, used a preset. And the preset I used was just a bass amp preset. So you look here, and it's like you see this right here is empty in our kick, but it's present within our bass guitar. So that would be a good setup. If I wanted to enhance that some more, maybe pull the bass out even more, I might just go ahead and fade that one frequency over. And then when we listen to it back, the beautiful part about that is you can hear the kick, and you can hear the bass, and they're complementing each other, and that's huge as far as the relationship between the bass guitar and the drum, specifically the kick drum. All right, so let's unmute all these guys over here, and we're going to focus on the drum set for a second. So let me get that out of the way. Now, there's a lot of ways to deal with the drum set. In particular, I want to look at, what perspective are we listening to the drum set from? I mean, we're at the very least dealing in stereo, so we want to make sure that our drum sets in the mix. So as you can see here, all of our drums are going right down the center of the mix. If we're panning from drummer's perspective, we're going to pan, moving the sound from left to right within the stereo spectrum. We're going to pan them in a way that sounds like you're the drummer sitting behind the drum set. So the kick is going down the center because, well, that's where the kick is in the center of the drummer. So the snare is going to be slightly, if it's a right-handed drummer, it's going to be to the left. Tom 1 is going to be a little bit to the left. And Tom 2 is going to be probably in the center somewhere or slightly to the right. And then the floor tom's probably going to be pretty far right. Now you have two overheads here. So I'm going to slide that one to the left and that one to the right. And give us just a little stereo imaging. When we hear that in playback, we get a little more realistic sound from the drum set. Okay, again, and that's from drummer's perspective. So now we've got our kick is starting to, be happy with our bass. It's going to sound like it's going to be setting in the mix a little bit better. Let's listen to that one more time. Okay, now, if we're tracking real instruments, it's pretty often going to happen where there's some crosstalk. In other words, there's going to be, here's the snare hit, but here's a kick hit too. Now your choices are this. You can either go through this entire piece of audio, select that, and hit X and get rid of it and do that a million times. Or you can use something called strip silence. Now, This is a little dicey, but it can be used. It's a good plug-in in Pro Tools. So you select the clip that you're wanting to strip silence, and what the goal is to get rid of most of the crosstalk and leave just the snare hit or whatever you're trying to isolate. So we would command U, select that, your strip threshold right here, right? So you do that strip threshold right there, would adjust the, the dB level of what it's going to pick up, and you can tighten that up or loosen that up, whatever you want to do, right? So the more you do this, look at what happens. The further you go, the more pinpoint accuracy it has. At the point which you feel like that you're kind of close to getting all the crosstalk from between those hits, you can either pad the end just a little bit so that you don't clip the end of the sound. If it's a tom, it's going to ring a little bit, or you can pad the front end just a little bit, and you can adjust durations as well. Once you strip that, as you can see, now you've got just the snare hits isolated. When you hear that, what that does is, if it's a tremendous amount of crosstalk, what that will do is that will give you less chance for what's called phasing issues. So when we hear this play back, and you can hear a definite clarity difference. So it's not always necessary. You can leave things as they are, and if there doesn't seem to be enough crosstalk for you to worry about, then just don't do the strip silence. That would be the beginnings of where I would start mixing the drums and bass together. Getting the right mix on the drums and bass will set you on the path to creating the kind of sound that thrills and fascinates audiophiles. Happy mixing. To learn more, look for our other videos on audio engineering.